Is this thing on? Hello. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the first annual Rayttentomatoes Game Awards. I'm your host, Rayttentomatoes. Since I didn't play enough games to warrant a top 10 list, and because I started caring less about the Game Awards year after year, I figured, why not just do my own Game Awards? I'll break it down into these categories, and we'll award these games based on how I felt playing them. And as a reminder, this is just solely my opinion. You want something objective? Go look at Metacritic or something. Without further ado, let's get right down into it. Worst Game of the Year. Kicking things right off is the worst game of the year. I only have 2 negative awards for the show, and I want to get these out of the way first. This is an award show, not a roast. Here are the nominees for the dumbest game of the year. We have Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. After the release of their acclaimed game, Batman Arkham Knight, an honest single-player game filled with content and doesn't steal money from you, they worked on another game set in the same universe for year after year after year after year, and what we got was... No. A pathetic live service looter shooter that nobody asked for. I'm sure everybody's heard enough about this atrocity, so next nominee please. Palworld. What? Huh? What can I say? I don't care about uninspired games. Microsoft's only W within the last decade is a creative hack and slash game made with pure passion called Hi-Fi Rush. And you know how Microsoft decided to celebrate its success? By shutting down the studio that earned them a Game Award, as well as a handful of other studios. Why? Well, clearly buying Activision wasn't cheap, so they decided to get rid of the developers that they didn't deem worthy in favor of more competitive shooters, I guess. Yikes. And speaking of competitive shooters, Conquered. This has to be a new record of a live service game shutting down after release. Guess how long Conquered lasted? 2 weeks. This is what happens when you make another shooter that adds nothing to the table in an oversaturated genre. Everything about this game just looks average. That being said, I don't really blame the developers for making this, but rather the suits at Sony for chasing outdated trends. You know what's crazy? Is not even a week afterwards, Sony published a Game of the Year nominee, spoilers I guess, that sold and rated really well. Let that be a lesson, Sony. Less shooters, more creative games. Alright, only 4 nominees. And the winner or loser of this award goes to... not these 2 games. I forgot to mention one other rule for the show. I have to actually play the game for it to qualify. So you guys got lucky. Okay, the loser of this award goes to... Palworld. Okay, hear me out. Palworld, to me, is an uninspired game that has a main draw of just being a Pokemon clone, mixing gameplay from Arc. There isn't anything creative about this, just borderline plagiarism. But here's the kicker. I can't criticize the game for being a predatory live service game because it's technically a you get what you pay for game. I can't praise the game for technically being playable because everything is just a one-to-one copy of Pokemon. My opinion on this game is so smack dab in the middle that it just ends up being a game that purely exists. Nothing more, nothing less. And in case you guys don't know, I'd rather experience something bad over something so mid it becomes soulless. Microsoft just narrowly escaped this award because the devs of the critically acclaimed Hi-Fi Rush just got a new home under PUBG's publisher, Krafton. But don't think you're off the hook, Phil Spencer. I'm watching you. Fuck you. Most disappointing game of the year. The thing about expectations is it's hard to manage them. Most of the time, we look forward to a new game for various reasons, and sometimes it falls a bit short. Disappointing games aren't necessarily bad games, at least to me. In fact, some of these nominees are actually solid games, but I feel let down from these games because they could have been so much more. So, here are my disappointing games of 2024. Persona 3 Reload. I made a review about it already, kinda popped off on TikTok, also may or may not have started a civil war in the comments. I said my thoughts there, but long story short, P3 Reload is a safe remake and carries most of the original game's problems. Final Fantasy XIV Dawn Trail, specifically MSQ. Creating a new story arc after the event known as Endwalker is a tough act to follow. I personally didn't expect this expansion to be as emotional and compelling as the previous 2 expansions, Endwalker and Shadowbringer. What I didn't ask for is a dull story about competing for a throne, awkwardly mixed with a story about grief and losing a loved one. Dawn Trail feels like 2 separate expansions, clumsily smushed into one. The new characters weren't that interesting, with the most notable one being Wook Lamont. Here's the thing, I don't hate this character like the internet does. I'm indifferent. I just think she overstayed her welcome. The old characters hardly had a presence until the last arc. Having them show up late takes away from the other characters that could have used the screen time. So either they should have been there all the way or not at all. Okay, this is taking too long. I have a show to run. Mario and Luigi Brothership. Oh man, this hurts. As of writing this, I'm having a hard time bringing myself finishing this game, let alone playing it, because it's just too damn slow. The performance hindered my enjoyment. For a series that demands precise inputs, 30 FPS makes them feel imprecise. The load times are slow across the board. Everything about it feels like it's simultaneously intentionally and unintentionally wasting my time. What also stinks is what they did with Luigi. Why do I have a button prompt that lets Luigi do all of the work? Why do I have to press A for Luigi to select his action only to press B for his button prompts right afterwards? A lot of things about this game don't make sense. And the loser of this award goes to... Persona 3 Reload. Hey, listen. If this was your first time experiencing Persona 3 and you enjoyed it, I'm happy for you. I'm glad you liked it. But for me, I needed something more than a safe remake that should have went further with some of the changes. I can't recommend something I honestly think could have been better. That's why I never bothered to play The Answer, because I know the team probably treated it the exact same way as they did with the base game. There are amazing things about it. I loved most of the new additions like the music or game mechanic, but it's just not enough for me, and that's fine. Okay, positive topics. This year was kind of a dry period for games, and that's okay. After the explosive year of 2023, I think having a gap year of Titans is a good idea. Besides, next year is stacked. Here are the games I'm looking forward to the most. Monster Hunter Wilds, Death Stranding 2, On the Beach, GTA 6, Ghost of Yotei, Metroid Prime 4, and Claire Obscure Expedition 33. And the winner is... Metroid Prime 4. Come on, did you expect anything else? This game got announced way too early back in 2017 and got restarted in 2019, and we hadn't heard a peep from this game until a Nintendo Direct earlier this year. My god, I can't believe I lived this long. I don't know about you guys, but video game music rules. Most games I play have banger soundtracks, some better than others. Here are the nominees and my favorite track from each of them. And the soundtrack I jammed out to the most this year goes to... Stellar Blade. I'm a busy man, I hardly have time for games. So here are the games that I missed when they came out and will probably get around to later on. Silent Hill 2, Emio the Smiling Man, and Life is Strange Double Exposure. And the winner is... Emio the Smiling Man. Silent Hill 2 came close. Happy to hear that it's good after the disastrous and rough marketing. Anyways, visual novels are my jam, and after playing 2 fantastic ones earlier this year, I'm always down for more. I just need to find time to play it. There are 2 reasons why I have long playtimes on these games. 1, the game's fun and addicting. 2, the game likes to waste my time. Here are the games that I spent way too long playing. Balatro. I don't know how to track how many hours I clocked in on mobile. Whenever I have downtime, I just pop out my phone and play this. So what's my source? Just trust me, bro. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Final Fantasy 16. I'm putting this here because I played the DLC and tackled arcade mode again. So Final Fantasy 14 Dawn Trail. Lots of Final Fantasy here. Persona 3 Reload. And Metaphor Re-Fantasio. The winner is... Okay, come on. Surely you can give me some points. No? Okay, come on. Well, last chance. Come on. Ah, god damn it. We'll do it again. Do it again. Sometimes I just want to replay old games for the hell of it. Here are the games I replayed because I got bored. The Last of Us Part 2, Final Fantasy 16, Scarlet Nexus, Epic Mickey, Kinda, and Hi-Fi Rush. And the winner is Hi-Fi Rush. Hey, what can I say? I really do enjoy this game. These games aren't even remotely close to perfection, and that's totally fine. There can be loads of things I don't agree with, or it can be janky as hell, but at the very end of the day, it still achieves the most important part of any game, being fun. So here are the nominees. Stellar Blade, for developers' first crack at a AAA title single-player game whose previous work is a gacha game, it's not bad. Sure, there's loads of jankiness, having big boobies don't make an interesting female protagonist, but it's still fun. Monster Hunter Rise. Full disclosure, this is my first Monster Hunter game, and I'm gonna let you in on a little secret. I'm going to give Monster Hunter Wilds a 7 out of 10 when I do play it. Why? Well, because all you do is hunt monsters, as the title suggests. Look, don't get me wrong, I get why people enjoy these games, and I enjoyed it myself. It's just, I prefer a little bit more in my games, but hey, it's still fun.
Alright, hold R1 to move, and then just go crazy. Go crazy.
Okay. Black Myth Wukong. Yeah, this ain't Game of the Year. It's fun, but it doesn't have the same complexity as any other action games, and I end up just playing it as another Souls game. And I have too many criticisms that prevent this from being on the same league as other Game of the Year nominees. And the best 7 out of 10 game award goes to Stellar Blade. It deserves the award because it's the only one out of the 3 that I went back and got all of the endings. It was just fun enough for me to get the Platinum Trophy. Platformers, one of the oldest gaming genre there is. I grew up with them and I still love them. Nominees are Astrobot, Prince of Persia, The Lost Crown, and Sonic X Shadow Generations. The winner is Astrobot. Game is full of charm. It's a love letter to PlayStation's entire history. I'm not even a PlayStation fanboy myself, but even I can acknowledge how passionate this game is. I said this earlier, but I hope Sony will look at this and pump out more games like this. Full transparency, I don't care about remakes. I can go off about how it's just nostalgia bait for easy money, or
how creatively bankrupt we are.
But credit where it's due, some of these games are actually amazing. Here are the nominees: Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Epic Mickey, and Paper Mario and the Thousand Year Door. Who are you kidding? It's 7 Rebirth. It's the only remake this year that's actually a very different game compared to its predecessor. Epic Mickey and Paper Mario are the exact same game. Again, haven't touched Silent Hill 2 yet. Again, I hear good things though. Games are just as effective a medium to tell a story as, say, movies or shows. Some of the best games I've played elicited powerful moments, just as some of my favorite films. Here are the games I've played this year with the best story. Until Then, 1000x Resist, Metaphor ReFantasio, and Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. And the winner is 1000x Resist. Seriously, I don't think I experienced a story like this that deals with a combination of diaspora, generational trauma, and isolation. It's not often that I play a game that made me go to bed depressed. Seriously, go check it out. I highly recommend it. I made a video about it after all. I love great characters. When a character is well written, compelling, and or have lots of personality, they become relatable. Better yet, they become memorable. In my humble opinion, great characters can carry a mediocre plot. Most of the time. So, here are my favorite characters I've witnessed this year. Aerith Gainsborough from Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Mark Borja from Until Then, Nicole Laxamana from Until Then, Kathy Portillo from Until Then, I'm seeing a lot from the same game, Iris from 1000x Resist, and Luis Guillaburn from Metaphor ReFantasio. And the winner is Mark and Nicole. Congratulations to the duo for having amazing chemistry and excellent growth in your own games. Both characters go through their own version of grief and went on a journey to help each other deal with them. Kathy deserves her own nomination because she also had great personality. However, she served more as a backbone instead of a dynamic character, which there's nothing wrong with, by the way. I just prefer those who grow. Every other character listed here deserved their own nominations. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth really made Aerith shine. Iris is a perfect example of what happens if someone was to live forever, and Luis Guillaburn is such a fantastic villain. Do you guys remember that dumbass comment made by the Amazon CEO who said how video game acting isn't acting? Without genuine performances, we would never be attached to any of the characters we see or play as. Nominees: Cody Christian as Cloud Strife from Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, John Eric Bentley as Barrett Wallace from Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Joseph Tweedo as Luis Guillaburn from Metaphor ReFantasio, Ni Do as Watcher from 1000x Resist, and Aaliyah Rayner as Iris from 1000x Resist. Not gonna lie, this one's pretty tough. I think a lot of voice acting in games this year have been stellar, but if I had to pick one, it would have to go to John Eric Bentley as Barrett. Barrett has probably the best moments in 7 Rebirth, and is largely owed to John's performance. He makes those lighthearted moments really funny and serious moments heart-wrenching. You ever played a game so good that you just want more? Sometimes, if a developer is generous enough, they'd give us DLCs or expansions. Here are the best DLCs of this year: The Rising Tide from Final Fantasy XVI, Shadow of the Erdtree from Elden Ring, and Sonic X Shadow Generations. This one's weird because it's basically Sonic Generations, but they added a full game on top of it. Is it an expansion or just a brand new game? I don't know. Anyways, the winner for best DLC or expansion goes to Shadow Generations. I picked it over Elden Ring because I had a blast the entire way through, and it showed Sonic Team finally learned from all of their previous mistakes. For now, I'd give it to Elden Ring, but I'm not gonna lie, there were a handful of frustrating aspects that prevented me from enjoying the entire DLC. But still, it was a great experience nonetheless, and I'd still recommend it to any Elden Ring fan. RPG requires strategy. Some games, I like to turn on my brain and think hard about how I should approach a problem. The nominees are Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and Metaphor ReFantazio. So, if you saw my previous video, you know the answer already. To be fair, both games are phenomenal. The difference is, one game is part of a trilogy, the other is a complete experience. One is still a remake, the other is a new IP. And the thing about me is, I prefer new things over old. Besides, I did have a few criticisms with 7 Rebirth that gave Metaphor an edge. So congratulations Metaphor, you deserved it. Sometimes I like to turn my brains off and let the hands do their work. Here are the games with the best action. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, that's crazy. Tekken 8, Black Myth Wukong, Stellar Blade, and Hades 2 Early Access. And the winner is Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Okay, to be honest, this is kinda cheating because this game works both as an RPG and an action game. I personally can't give it to Hades 2 for one reason. It's not done yet, but the fact that I nominated that shows how amazing that game is. So, by default, congratulations to Final Fantasy VII Rebirth as best action game. Games also have to look pretty if it wants to attract new players. It doesn't matter what type of art style or direction the game wants to go for, it just has to look nice. Here are the games of 2024 that I thought looked amazing. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Animal Well, Until Then, Black Myth Wukong, and Metaphor ReFantazio. And the game with the best presentation goes to Until Then. All of the nominees look gorgeous for various reasons, but I prefer stylized graphics over realism. And you know what I prefer over stylized graphics? Pixel art. So then it just narrows down into these two games. Honestly, both Animal Well and Until Then are on equal footing, but there can only be one. So, Until Then it is. Okay, this one's extremely subjective, but here I'm looking at the gameplay that vibed with me the most. These are the games that had really creative or just straight up fun gameplay for one reason or the other. The nominees are Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Metaphor ReFantazio, Hades 2 Early Access, Tekken 8, and 2XKO in Alpha. And the winner is... Shit man, this is hard. The winner is... Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Balancing action and RPG is very, very tricky. Very few games have truly succeeded. This is one of them. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth masterfully blends fast-paced action while forcing you to play strategically for every encounter. It's a rare game that can satisfy both action and RPG fans. All of the other games here also deserve their fair share of nominations. I spoke in my previous video, but Metaphor ReFantazio pushed the Megami Tensei franchise forward. If Hades 2 Early Access is really fun right now, I can't wait to see the full game when it comes out. I actually really enjoyed Tekken 8 because I'm not super into fighting games, but for some reason, Tekken 8's notoriously difficult fighting style really spoke to me, and 2XKO was just fun. And last, but not least, my game of the year. This is it. We finally made it. The title everybody wants to hear. So what is my game of the year? Here are my favorite games of 2024. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Until Then, Astrobot, Balatro, and Metaphor ReFantazio. You know what's funny? I didn't have a top game for most of 2024. It was only until I started writing this video when I was finally able to narrow it down. I really did enjoy all of these nominees, but I have to only pick one, right? A game of the year, to me, doesn't have to be perfect. Nothing in life is. My game of the year just has to elevate my experience so much that it can alter how I view games in a positive light. So, let's go through the process of elimination. It's not Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, because no matter how different it is from the OG, no matter how much new content there is, no matter how big of a leap it is, it's still just a remake, and remakes cannot be my game of the year. I would much rather celebrate something new over something that's been done before. It's not Astro Bot, because while it's a very, very fun platformer, and the game PlayStation really needs, it largely borrows ideas from the best 3D Mario games. And it's not Balatro, even though that game is addicting, and I mean really addicting. That brings us to the final two, Until Then and Metaphor ReFantazio. Both games are masterful experiences in their own respective way, but one of them just hits a bit closer to home, and that game is Until Then. I mean it when I say I haven't cried in the game in a very long time. Metaphor was very close to winning, but Until Then edged out just a tad bit because, well, it's the only game that struck a chord with me on a personal level. It has my favorite story out of all of the games I've played this year. It understands how awkward being a teenager can be, all of the insecurities we have, and how we overcome them. It deals with grief and how we move forward from it expertly. All of the characters are memorable and lovable. There's a reason 3 of them were nominated for Best Characters. Sure, it's a visual novel, and the gameplay mostly revolves around walking and talking. That's fine by me. What matters to me in any game the most is the overall experience. And if the overall experience is so amazing, then does any of the shortcomings matter? Anyways, thank you everyone for sticking around to the very end of the video. I had a lot of fun making this. I'm definitely going to do this again next year, maybe with some changes here and there. What's your game of the year? I would really love to hear your perspectives on why this or that was your favorite game of 2024. But until then, take care.